Hello, hello. Happy Monday, lovers. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And today I want to share with you something very personal, but something that I've been questioning my life, my entire life. And that's the fad and actually appropriate to the season. Like a lot of people at this moment, they are celebrating religious, celebrations. And I'm always, like I was raised in a Christian, family household, but I was wondering why religious has to establish the way you think, the way you do things, the way you feel things. And I was wondering, uh, the other day I got a message, saying, well, like you cannot compare. I'm always being criticized because I always says I'm Christian. However, I show my body, and I wondered, like how come religion and sexuality always being like together? And so I did a little research, and I found out. And I'm gonna read it for you that religion and sexuality have been connected for as long as organized religion has existed. It's not something that started at one specific moment, but rather evolved over thousands of years. Here's a clear way to understand it. The ancient origins and the early civilizations like ancient Egypt, Greece, Mesopotamia, sexuality was often directly tied to religion. Why? Because fertility was sacred, because it ensured survival. God, gods and goddess were associated with love, sex, and reproduction, like Aphrodite. Okay, well, some cultures even practice ritual sexuality as part of religion ceremonies. The rise of moral frameworks. As major religions developed, such as Judaism, Christianity, Islam, sexuality became more regulated. Sex was often linked to marriage and procreation. Rules were created about what was considered moral and immoral. Concepts like chastity, modesty, and fidelity became central. Now, I want to clarify something. Personally, I'm not a religious person. I follow Jesus as a master, as a person who came actually to question, you know, the laws that they were established back in those days. He was actually a free maker. I mean, he was trying to make understand that the power that you have is within you, not established by other people. So anyway, sex influence of religious text. Wait, what's going on, Apple? Let me go back. Anyway, so as well, my computer is going crazy today. Anyway, so as a measure develop, as all these religions and all these traditions and the way people live, the influence of religious texts, sacred texts like the Bible or Quran, shaped your sexual norms by defining acceptable relationships, setting expectations for gender roles, influencing laws and social behavior. And here's what I think. As I said, I was raised under a belief, what I do believe, but I was like, well, how come you have to judge somebody for your sexual choices? And obviously, as I read, mostly the religious and sexuality are based on marriage and procreation. But okay, well, how about a good person like me that I don't believe in marriage. I don't believe and that we have to respect our body, of course, and so therefore you can respect others. But why somebody has to establish how can I be if I'm not? I'm not another person where I want to have kids or like my happiness is fine within myself, and my sexuality is enjoyed it based on what I know, based on what I like, you know. So anyway, apparently, back in medieval times, during periods with like Middle Ages, religious institutions had strong control over personal life. Sexual behavior was closely monitored and often restricted. Pleasure was sometimes viewed with suspicion, especially outside the marriage. I mean, I cannot believe that I'm reading this back in medieval ages, and people still thinking that, oh, you are, you are, whatever label you want to put on me, because I enjoy my sexuality, and because I make my own decisions based on what I know and what I want to do, and I think that we shouldn't separate the religious part of the pleasure part, because I don't think God wants us to suffer or not to experience life. We're human beings. I mean, I always question myself, like in the animal kingdom, the animals, they don't need marriage, to have sex with other animals. They just have to want it. And so if they are free, why as humans we have to establish what can I do and what I can't? I mean, I believe that one thing is being spiritual, one thing is connected yourself with the source, and another thing is follow a religion that establish how you have to wear. I mean, what kind of food you can eat, or what kind this. I mean, for me, religion has always been a thing that basically was created by men to control men. And that's funny, but not a lot of people actually knows what is the origin of the word Fuck, and we say it all the time. But so apparently this is one of the versions, this is one of the origins, that back in medieval ages, the king, they were the aristocrat families. They were like, very skeptical to mix with other people, because they wanted to keep their own, like the wealth and all this stuff. So basically, every time that somebody was getting married and now was ready to procreate, they need to permission of the king to have sex. So that is fornication under the consent of the king. Who, why do I have to ask permission to be myself, to choose who am I want to be with? That's insane. But unfortunately, there is people. These traditions, they've been just dragging this way of think. Of course, I mean, there is something that I'll crit. I mean, I will probably criticize being like abusive, or of course. I mean, that is not part of love yourself or love others. Like those are extremes. But when it comes to like the modern era, that today, the relationship between religion and sexuality varies widely. Some communities maintain traditional teachings, others interpret their beliefs to be more inclusive, like, for example, like LGBT identities, premarital sex. There's ongoing dialogue between religious values and modern views on autonomy and sexual health. So, the big picture here: religion became involved with sexuality because sex is tied to reproduction, family structure, morality, and social order. All things religions historically helped to regulate. So I believe, as a Christian, I believe that um, Jesus came to save us, and the way they are thinking and can be open widely, and be free of what we know, what we want to know, what we would like to do as a humans. What is my mission? Like to be here in this earth. And when I talk about sexuality, always says, I'm pretty open. I'm very, very open. I believe that we should talk more and judge less, because at the end nobody's perfect. And a lot of people, it becomes like very pointed at you, thinking that they're better than you. But no, that's not about being good or being better. It's about being free. And so basically, if I'm just saying, enjoy your life, enjoy your sexuality, be open, be honest. That, I think that's the most important thing, because when I start digging in, and obviously everything relates to like marriage and an onion, okay, you have the option, but what if you already have the option and it didn't work for you? You're not a bad person because you're not married. You're not a bad person because you don't have kids. Therefore, I'm not into that category of, okay, I'm only just gonna have sex because I want to have kids. And no, that's now I see things. I see the way that you have to enjoy your body, but you need to understand your body. You need to learn, you know, things that you want to try. Only you are the master of your life and your decisions. So my conclusion here is that regardless of your beliefs, we are humans, and humans needs to have this contact regardless of what it is. But I mean, obviously I will condemn if someone is using me for a reason or is abusing me. I would never do that with anybody. I'm always want to be free to decide and make the decision for myself, and the outcome, whatever it is, enjoy, because life is short. And but yeah, I don't know. You tell me. Is it religion something strong in your life that it depends on that you make decisions, or it's the sexuality something that you would like to open it up because, and maybe you don't have like a lot of people you can share things? Well, call me, okay? Anyway, so I'm going to leave you with the meme of the week. Have a wonderful weekend. Week. Bye.
I'm making coffee. Anybody want coffee? I'm making coffee. I'm having a cup of coffee. Does anybody want coffee? Because I'm having a cup of coffee.